Regardless of how you feel about the new content, Battlefield Season 2 just flopped way harder than any of us were expecting. And now, DICE devs are going into full damage control, saying they don't have the resources to make any more content, even though they have 4 times the studios and are delivering 1/2 to 1/3 of the content we used to get back with Battlefield 3 Premium, which was a one-time payment for 20 maps, 20 weapons, and 10 vehicles. But backing up, here's what I mean when I say Season 2 flopped. Season 1 back in October garnered a massive 550,000 concurrent players on Steam, a number we've all seen tumble since, where it bottomed out around 55,000 peak players a day in late January, with a random jump on January 29th of 97,000 concurrent on Steam. However, fast forward to the release of Season 2, and DICE has lost the trust of so many players. Season 2's release capped out at only 92,000 concurrent that day, and immediately fell back to previous averages the next day, dropping into the 70,000s and most hours sitting in the low 60s, although this weekend would hopefully see a spike. Take a look at this graph and you'll see that Season 2's release is practically invisible, with random days in January mid-delay performing better. And I'll be the first to say, like I did in my impressions video, that Season 2's content isn't bad. In fact, I think there's a lot of good to be seen. However, immediately delaying content for your massive $400 million 4-studio live service production that sold over 20 million copies, and then having almost nothing to show for it while netcode, desync, and other core issues remain busted, is a fucking joke. And at this point, I don't think it's about content, it's about principle. For many players, Battlefield had its chance, and they fumbled hard again. Community management has gone back into hiding. Devs are just now fixing systemic gunplay issues that they should have known about after all that supposed Battlefield Labs testing, and leadership is crying about not having enough resources within their 1,300-person development pipeline after achieving record-breaking sales. At this point, everything about Battlefield 6 has been smoke and mirrors, with seemingly 1,000 of those 1,300 employees working on just marketing, where they paid off streamers who never touched their game again. And after bugs, delays, and lacking content, where DICE has the balls to charge $70 for the base game and then ask $25 for battle passes, the players called their bluff. You have indie studios like Embark cranking out content for 2 major games right now and showing that player falloff isn't some inevitable curse, it's the result of poor game management. Battlefield's player count didn't fall 92% because that's just what happens. It was because they had the entire gaming world show up, excited to see the return of a once great franchise, and the players immediately saw through their shit. Legacy issues continue, while EA spends more and the devs stick to the 2042 live service model, which is 2 less maps and 5 less guns per update than players used to get in Battlefield 3. Premium was 20 maps, 20 weapons, and 10 vehicles for a one-time payment of $50. And yet, here we are paying upwards of $25 per season for 2 maps and 5 weapons. And here we are, after apparently years of hearing our feedback, DICE's lead producer, Alexia Kristolfi, is crying wolf about not having the resources to execute on the fans' expectations. So let's get this straight. EA folded in 4 studios to work on Battlefield, with 1 entire studio working on a battle royale fans didn't ask for, and you had to literally pay streamers to promote. And then you turn around after seeing a legendary player fall off and say you don't have the resources left to produce the content that players are insistent on. As someone who works professionally as an art director, this is just a huge mismanagement of resources point blank. And I'm not saying that game development is easy. In fact, I'm saying the opposite. With the Season 2 delay coming after record-breaking sales and goals of hundreds of millions of players, DICE should have turned around and instead of bitching about their resources, gone to board members, shown the massive sales numbers, and requested freelance workers and new development headcount. Thus, immediately with Season 2, they could have announced that they were expanding their resources and reorganizing to double down on what's working and what players want because the game was such a success. Instead, they gambled and tried to go as low as they could, delivering as little content as possible, and well, the fanbase called them out. And instead of seeing 100 or 150,000 people jump back on via Steam, they're instead now giving the game away for free on Game Pass to drum up new players. Which is fucking hilarious because RedSec was already free, so I guess that wasn't converting players like they'd hoped. Season 2 has been a fumble of epic proportions for Battlefield, and after 4 years of development, I can't believe DICE is still using this whole Season 2 is building the foundation excuse. The time for foundation building was literally years ago. The game is live, players are gone, and EA is asking for more money and less content than ever before. On top of that, the day-to-day experience is just weak, with players crying out for basic balance updates, quality of life changes to the UI, and fixes for things like visibility DICE learned how to do several games ago. DICE seemingly has zero institutional knowledge, hiring guys like Byron Beede from Call of Duty just to throw money at an office that's a revolving door of talent where they forget all the great updates they've made to games in the past, causing us to start from scratch every single time. Throw in the egregious monetization with $25 battle passes, bundles you can't buy piece by piece anymore, and limited time modes that include paid elements like the Lunar New Year's event, and Battlefield 6 feels more like a rug pull than a long-term investment. I'm not typically one to make grand claims of dead games, but Battlefield 6 is trying very, very hard to kill itself as leadership uses their own mismanagement of resources as an excuse. Constantly hiding behind the game development is hard excuse. Meanwhile, EA is one of the largest publishers in history and has given Battlefield 6 more resources than ever before and still came out the other side with less quality and less content that we used to get back in 2011. As much as I've expressed interest in a Battle Royale just based on the fact it should be fun because of the Battlefield sandbox, it appears Battlefield Studios has been totally mismanaged the past several years, dumping way too much time into a decade-old trend with the RedSec, and sadly, once again, fumbling Portal. In all honesty, the way the mode currently works and how poorly it's utilized, I think they need to pull the plug on Portal. After the custom Metro fiasco and how poorly optimized the server browser is, Portal has zero value and is probably one of the toughest things to develop. Again, not because Portal is a bad idea, but because the strategy behind it is so weak. And now that we're to a point EA is giving Xbox players the full game as a free trial, shows that RedSec is not converting to purchases. Thus, they need to give it all away for free to hopefully capture those conversions. So the sad fact is, we gave Battlefield 6 way too much praise back upon release, and just a few months in, after all the money, all the sales, and all the resourcing, they've apparently found a way to regress even more. And to be totally honest, the fact that producers are going public, kinda shaming EA for not giving enough resources, feels like a cover-up. There's no way leadership should be talking like that publicly because it would be a huge threat to their job. In reality, this was all most likely part of the plan. Cut costs, provide the bare minimum, and then when you get called out, say that game development is difficult, and even with the billions of dollars and thousands of devs, you can't do what you used to do a decade ago with less resources. Battlefield 6 isn't a failure per se, because it's doing exactly what it was designed to do: rug pull the player base, feast off microtransactions, and move on to Battlefield 7 with the same song and dance. The only problem is, the player base seems to have caught on earlier than expected, and the devs keep fumbling core mechanics and development timelines, turning the player base against them faster than expected. So after all this, Battlefield 6 isn't dead, but it is lifeless. The game has plenty of redeeming qualities, but when you have producers, the very people in charge of resources, saying they don't have resources, it's clear they're not interested in solving problems. This was all part of the plan. Drop those comments below and let me know if you've gotten a chance to check out Season 2, or if you think it'll break 100,000 players this weekend. And for everything else Battlefield, stay tuned and subscribe, and as always, thank you guys for watching.